Before we unravel today's story, ask yourself one thing. How far would someone go for love? And when love turns into obsession, who gets caught in the crossfire? On this channel, we don't just tell stories. We expose what happens when passion turns dangerous, when loyalty fractures, and when the heart becomes a weapon. If you're drawn to the secrets lovers take to the grave, like, subscribe and hit the bell, because the most twisted love stories aren't found in fiction. They're real, and they're waiting to be told. Now, let's begin. On a warm spring night in Savannah, Georgia, a man was found stabbed to death in an alley behind a jazz bar. There was no wallet, no phone, just a name whispered by a shaken witness who saw a figure run into the night. Liam. Just 3 days later, another man, Daniel Moore, was arrested in a different city, acting like nothing had happened, calm, composed, as if the world hadn't just shifted. But this wasn't some random act of violence. This wasn't a mugging gone wrong. This was about a woman named Emily Carson and her desperate attempt to disappear from two men who refused to let her go. One of those men, already dead. The other, he's still watching. Emily Carson was 26, soft-spoken, artistic, private, the kind of person who left a lasting impression, but not because she was loud. People described her as kind, maybe a little shy, a dreamer, too trusting for her own good, one coworker said. She worked at a small bookstore tucked into a quiet corner of Savannah's historic district. Old wood floors, the smell of vanilla and pages, a sleepy black cat curled up in the poetry section. Emily liked it that way. She didn't crave attention. She loved rainy mornings, warm tea, and novels about other people's lives. She lived alone in a modest apartment above a bakery. Her walls were filled with watercolor paintings, soft landscapes, hazy cityscapes, and sometimes faceless figures staring into fog. But behind the calm, quiet life she built, something darker was unraveling. It started with two men. Daniel Moore was 32, a real estate agent, confident, polished, always in control. He wore suits on Sundays, never raised his voice. Emily met him at a friend's engagement party. He made her laugh, took her to dinner. He was thoughtful, consistent, brought her flowers just because. They dated for nearly 3 years. To the outside world, they looked perfect. Daniel helped her build an IRA, took her to open houses just for fun, talked about marriage, kids, a house in the suburbs. Her parents adored him. To them, he was the dream. Reliable, smart, successful. But Emily felt small. Daniel listened, but only halfway. Dismissed her art gallery dreams as cute. He made her feel like a child with crayons, not a woman with a vision. Then she met Liam Reyes. He was 28, a musician, worked nights at a bar, days in a local record shop. He was all soul, no filter, no pretense. They met at a poetry reading. He quoted Rainer Maria Rilke, and she couldn't stop thinking about the way his voice cracked when he read the line. They talked for hours about loneliness, art, the ache of being unseen. She hadn't felt something that real in years. And before long, they were meeting in secret. Cafes, his apartment, long walks at midnight by the river. He made her feel alive again. She didn't tell Daniel. Not yet. By early October, Emily ended it. She told Daniel she needed space, said she wasn't ready for forever, that she needed to find herself. Daniel seemed calm. He returned her things in a box, sent a text that read, "I wish you peace, Emily. Take care of yourself." But something about it felt final, too final. Then the cracks started to show. Long emails, late-night texts, messages that grew darker with each passing week. "You're making a mistake. No one will love you like I do." She found a note on her car. "Still thinking about you. Let's talk." He began showing up places, at cafes she never told him about, In the bookstore, just standing there, pretending to browse. Friends noticed, warned her, but Emily didn't want to believe he was dangerous. He'd never hit her, never screamed, and that made it harder to admit the truth. What no one knew, not even Liam, was that Emily had recently discovered she was pregnant. She hadn't told anyone, not yet. She wasn't sure who the father was. But more than that, she didn't feel safe telling either of them. She wrote in her journal, "Daniel is obsessed. Liam is too wild. I'm scared I'll lose control of my life. Or worse, my life, period." She started saving cash, deleted social media, looked up rentals in Asheville, North Carolina. She was planning an escape, writing goodbye letters. She wasn't planning to stay. January 5th, 2017, a foggy Thursday night. She and Liam had dinner at a jazz bar called the Blue Velvet. They laughed, shared dessert. He told her he'd been thinking about proposing. She smiled, but didn't say yes, didn't say no either. That night, Liam stepped out to smoke. He never came back. He was found just before midnight, stabbed once in the chest. No wallet, no phone. Police called it a robbery at first, but the alley was too quiet, the wound too clean. There was no struggle. Then, in a storm drain nearby, a torn envelope. Inside, a scrap of paper, part of a letter. "You took her from me. Now I'm taking her from you." Emily was shattered. Her world collapsed in a single night, and something inside whispered, "You're next." She didn't pack much, just her journals, some clothes, her paintings, and the cash she'd stashed away. Within 48 hours, Emily was gone. She moved 2 hours north to a rural town, changed her name, got a job at a hardware store, rented a tiny guest house from a retired couple who thought she was just another quiet girl starting over. For a few weeks, she felt safe. Then she met Ryan. He worked at a local mechanic shop. Sweet, easygoing, always smiling. They weren't dating. He was just a friend, someone she could talk to, laugh with, and feel normal around. But Daniel didn't see it that way. The text started again, encrypted, untraceable. "You moved on already? I saw you with him. If I can't have you, no one will." She changed her number, moved again. But 3 weeks later, Ryan was dead. Stabbed. Once. Just like Liam. Emily didn't need to see the scene. She already knew. Daniel had found her. This time, she went to the police. Showed them everything. They marked her as a stalking victim. Installed cameras. Sent patrols. But Daniel knew how to stay hidden. How to haunt without being seen. Then one morning, a painting was left on her front porch. Watercolor, just like hers. It was a portrait of Emily. And behind her, a man in shadow watching through a window. On the back, written in sharp black ink, "You're mine, always." Emily Carson is alive, but she's still running. The man who took everything from her is still out there. And if you think this story is over, you haven't seen what comes next. Subscribe now, because in part 2, Emily stops running and starts fighting back.